Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode. The title is From Reality Checks to Imagination Checks. And the idea occurred to me because I noticed that we don't have imagination checks. I think I could be one of the first people who was bringing up the idea in this way. From reality checks to imagination checks. So if we can check our reality, how come we can't check our imagination? How come there isn't as much of a significance as checking out what the imagination is? I think what has happened is there has been two sides of the coin, but we have decided to remain on one side. That means we think there's just reality. No, there's imagination. There is the space of the intelligent mind observing itself. I consider a reality check to be when a person is too occupied in their inner realms or too caught by their inner realms and they notice the outer realms where the objective reality is, you know. So we can say that if we check our reality by stepping beyond the inner realms towards the outer realms, that means it's like somebody, I'll give you an example. Like when I was in downtown Toronto, I was attending film school there, and for a whole year, I would see people. Like I would, in my breaks, I would have a cigarette there, down there, and I would look at things and I would see people. I would see different kinds of people, and there would be some people who had been so defeated, so had been so destroyed in character that they were literally shouting at the street, or they were drugged up, or there was something, you know? So those people, that person I remember seeing that was shouting at a building, literally the person was shouting at a building. I don't know if they saw a reflection of something in the mirror, in the window of the building, or whatever it was, but a person was shouting, and it was as if that person, in my view, needed a reality check. What the reason they needed a reality check is because they were not in reality. That means you're checking to see if you are noticing the real in the moment. So the strategy, pretty much, I mean, I see a model to it. Reality check, you're stuck in your inner realms. You want to notice the outer realms. You need to notice the outer realms. Imagination check, you're stuck in the outer realms. You need to look at your inner realms. So this is why I'm saying from reality checks to imagination check, because we check the reality. We're like, all good, it's there, you know? Now, what is not there? The dance of reality, the dance of imagination, how objects and subjects are defining our eyes, as if the moment we open our eyes, either we look at the physical or the non physical is looking. How would it be like an imagination check? Because reality doesn't change, at least we consider. Not that it doesn't change reality, it's just that It changes slower than our imagination. It changes slower than our minds. We can change our minds inside a body for, let us say, 100 years or so. But the value of the imagination is the value of the extension of your reality. Anything I've seen real has been observed by what I consider to be unreal. Because really, if reality is sensory based, it's object based, the ideas of ourself are not objects. Do you know that means we can't treat a subject like an object? So a reality check, you're checking to see where the objects are in the moment. And you can say an imagination check is where you're checking to see how the subjects are in position. Now the mind is so strange. It is at the same time the most confusing thing ever. At the same time, it is the thing. It is your engine of clarity at the same time. Before I called it the inner realms, I would call it subtler planes of abstraction. And I actually came to name the talk Beyond the Clouds of Abstraction. But I thought I speak about imagination checks because it kind of checks into the idea of beyond the clouds of abstraction. You see, if you treat the human being, imagine you treat your being. Let's say you look at the word human being, you're identifying as a human being. The being part is existence. The human part is your experience. What I mean by that, or I would say it again, sorry, I'll say it differently. I messed it up. Human, the human word, the human, when we look at the word human being, the human relates to the design, to the existence, but the being relates to the experience. What can I say? In front of our eyes, there is a nation of images. And behind our eyes, there are nations of images. We have been treating as if we are in one world. We are in one kind of dimension. I honestly feel we are known bodies. We are unknown minds moving known bodies. And sometimes if you want to notice your inner realms, you have to, in my experience at least, the less you move, the more you notice the movement of the mind, the less physically you move. How can we check our imagination? We know imagination is a deviation from reality. Because it's a deviation from reality, we tend to say that without reality, what imagination? Do you know? But you would say an imagination check would be a different setting. It would be a setting where, as if imagine we were in a world where the imaginary was taken more real than the real. It's fascinating. Sometimes I think, could there be a reverse dimension? Not that there's endless parallel dimensions, but there's one dimension that is the opposite of the human form. Just like we have a left hand and we have a right hand, sometimes I wonder if there is a left hand and a right hand to the universe. I feel that imagination, the difference between reality, is that reality is familiar. It has become familiarized. Technically, before we identified what was real, was there anything real to us? Before language, what was the world like? What was experience like? I wonder about this so often you don't believe. It's as if like we are all living through language, yet we have stopped asking about its mysterious position. And I honestly think the reason we have come to language as a species, the reason out of all the types of fruits this creature could consume, it went towards an invisible moment. We must look at the we. The human experience is not normal. There is something off, and that's the remarkability of it. That's why it's fascinating. That we are nature that has opened its eyes, named itself, started building things. Do you know? I mean, sometimes when I think about the massive scale, how long it took for us to evolve, how long it took for us to ground ourselves in singular languages, how long it took for us to stop killing each other. I think that we have to, I mean, when I say we have to, I'm perceiving an advanced civilization. And if an advanced civilization wants to have an advanced communication, an advanced ability to communicate, it has to master its experiences, both on subtler planes and on planes that are not so subtle. Do you know what that means? Is I see this picture of a cloud. Now, this is just a picture, but I can close my eyes and in my inner realms notice my head popping out of those clouds. You know, I can see something with my eyes, but then the mind makes it realize. I feel we develop language as a result of separating from nature's mind, which was our ecosystem. That's one thing you can see the human being did differently. It's separated. That's the most fascinating thing. Because when I look at the human being, I'm telling you, it was as if I don't think we are normal. I think that there was something that happened in evolution. Because it feels like the evolutionary human body right now, if you check your body and you put your palms on the ground, you'll notice something strange. As if this creature stood up too early. The ape stood up too early. Our biology is not designed to lie down on beds. You know, we're designed, we have the body of an animal, but we're living through the abstraction of what the human being is. There's something strange, you know, as if somehow animals become antennas for how the whole greater universe could be an organism. Okay, guys, let's step off of this talk a notch. Let us say that if we want a reality check, we have to find a way to check reality. If we want an imagination check, we have to find a way to check imagination. Now, the issue is we are starting from reality, and then we are wondering about imagination. So, imagination, we can say, requires reality as a precondition to be something different to, and we can say reality doesn't require imagination. And I think this is why we have the notion that the real is true. I often wonder if this notion will change, where we stop thinking the real is true. And the issue is, even if there is a truth in the world, how are we receiving this truth? If we are multidimensional beings, does that mean you can just find truth and hold it in your hand? Or is truth like a jacket, you just put it on, you know? Or if we are more multidimensional than that, what would that imply of the type of truth we seek? Because many people, they want to experience mysticism. They want to experience something beyond the realm, not realizing they want to experience it. The notion of experiencing something, I can tell you, is very human. So if we are to check our imagination, we are checking it through reality, which is a mistake. And this is why the atheist can, of course, be like, yeah, your imagination is different than reality. You know, it's like, of course, if they were the same, they would be the same. So the mystery is not why imagination is different from reality. The question is, why is imagination there? Why are we not like a pure rational robot right now? That means this kind of declares that the human intelligence is not just here to be something that is processed or calculated. So, if reality doesn't require imagination, but imagination requires reality, then our comprehension of imagination like the issue is, because imagination requires reality, we can't do anything above imagination. So we have to find a new relationship by reverse engineering and wondering how reality is reality rather than what is imagination. Should we, forget it, or should we pay attention to it? You see the significance of this statement? Rather than thinking, what is imagination? No, that's imagination. Get out. It's like, rather than kicking imagination out of the room of reality, we must wonder how reality is not, how reality is being reality. That means sometimes when a person gets upset, they think of this, they can think like, wow, man, what is this person doing? Like someone's bothering them, imagine. Now, sometimes the person can, rather than thinking someone else is bothering them, they could just notice that they are bothered. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes the problem is not outside. It's how we're looking at the outside from the inside. So first thing is, we gotta, if we are to ask what is reality rather than is imagination real, because whatever finding we have to imagination, we're going to compare it to reality. So the best thing is to figure out what reality is, you know? Because for me, my mind, even though like there's some moments where I feel it's the expansion of my body, and then there's moments where I feel my body has been extended forth by my mind into my attention. So depending on how you look at it, you could feel like you're a mind moving a body, or you could feel you're a body moving a mind. Those people who feel body moving a mind, they are more oriented towards the materialistic. Those people who feel a mind is moving a body, which that would imply the unknown is moving the known. That means you can't be certain because something unknown is happening. It's like the captain of a ship suddenly noticed the ship sinking, and he asks the crew, he's like, "Crew, why is the ship sinking? Is there a hole?" And the crew's like, "No, sir, we checked. There is no hole. The ship is sinking, though." And then the captain's like, "You fools, you didn't check properly." Do you know? So it becomes something, it becomes a situation where it's as if the ship is sinking, there is something wrong, right? So we're not just in reality. If we were just in reality, we could not question it. Because we're with reality plus unknown situation going on here, you know. Where was I going with this? The mind-body differentiation between body, mind. That means we look at the relationship of a body and mind. We either think the mind is movement, the body is stillness. Either our minds are moving faster than our bodies, or our bodies are moving faster than our minds. If our bodies are moving faster than our minds, I feel we suffer because we watch the body break. But if the mind is moving faster than the body, perhaps the mind is meant to experience a speed that at the end of the lifetime, imagine we just, it's like we, I mean, this is too abstract. I mean, it's going to sound a bit science fiction, but I just feel that right now, because we think it's one room, we're not choosing to notice that there's other dimensions that we can work with, that we can identify, that we could contact as our minds. There is the suggestion that the higher dimensions of it, that, in some sense, the animate mind journeys through. It's as if like the higher dimension is your mind. There's literally no mind to do anything there. We're literally in a civilization that has told itself a boring story, singular story, and it's waking up to its multidimensional nature. And a lot of things, the human behavior that people see, and they're like, oh man, that's strange, that doesn't make sense. If we saw ourselves as antennas, it would make perfect sense. That means we're different antennas receiving different chunks of this world. So I would honestly say we are so lucky to be 8 billion people on a rock. Why? Because we can compare and contrast. Therefore, noticing patterns beyond the existential condition of being not knowing, wait a minute, light's going in my eyes. So am I seeing what's reality, or am I seeing light plus my brain's whatever it's doing? That's the thing. Sometimes I feel just because we see a certain range of sensory perception, it doesn't mean we completely see it. Sometimes I feel we can never see it. Because light, think of it this way, treat light, the object it hits, and your eyes as three different chemicals. And these three different chemicals, upon interaction, are not, I mean, even though we don't perceive light as a gas because it doesn't move like that. But I'm saying, imagine if we did use a gas metaphor, three different types of gases infused with, they would none, all three of them would be changed. So we are never seeing reality. I mean, from the human position, we are seeing object plus light. If the light is doing something weird, we can never tell. Excuse me. So I was thinking, guys, even if we try to check imagination, we can never check imagination, at least the inner realms for now, in the sense that they're evocational and they change. So if you notice what is real to you, it's what's in your attention. Do you know what's in your most immediate awareness? So if your attention changes, and reality is a way the attention is, so we can even say there's no such thing as imagination and reality. There is just attention, and as the attention shifts in accordance to different states of mind and different states of world. I mean, right now we don't treat the world as our mind, but I feel there will come a point where we'll see every meaning, everything that we see that has meaning, any object, whatever, it is a recorded relationship with the realm. So that means I can sit here thinking that I am whatever. I could think I am Superman. I can think I'm Batman. I could think whatever. But I'm going to eventually notice that whatever thought that has come to me, the thought cannot be devoid of a relationship to the whole world. And when I look at the word devoid, I see something interesting. I see two words in that word, but I see one word that's complete and the two letters of a word unknown. As if you can say, we are devoid of the void when we deny the emptiness that was forever whole. WHOA. The destiny of the void, the denial of the void. There was this Japanese show based on a uh, comic book. In this Japanese show, there was a world of heroes. The world had decided everybody should be a hero. And human beings, a percentage of the human population, had so many, like 80% of the population or something, had special powers or something, right? And then the whole story begins with this one kid who doesn't have special powers in a special power hero society. But the kid has been fascinated, has been studying as if he didn't have the power, so at least he studied as much as he could. Do you know? Imagine like not having a car, but because you don't have a car, you're so curious that you start studying about car engines. So this kid had studied about heroes and superheroes in this Japanese show his whole life. And little did he know that in a sidetrack story, excuse me. Pretty much what happens is on a side story to the same story of this kid who doesn't have power, a certain superhero power in a superhero society, a superhero world. What happens is that this kid, he doesn't know that the strongest main character of the whole show, the strongest hero, is passing by. Do you know? And there's a scene where he's getting hurt or something's happening to him, and this hero saves him. Right? This hero comes in, the strongest hero, coincidentally, like it's in his karma. The strongest hero comes and finds him. Now the strongest hero saves him. He's just a kid on the street where the hero saved from some monster or something. Now the thing is, as the story develops, that problem comes back again, that monster. And now this time, this kid that has been bullying the main character gets taken by this monster and is literally pretty much dying. Right? And this kid who doesn't have any sort of superpower or something, it's as if his body moves without thinking and he just runs towards this thing and throws his backpack at it. As if some sort of, as if the kid has the heart of a hero, the soul of a hero, but doesn't have the power of it. And I don't know, and there's a scene where long story short, the main character, not the main character, the main hero of the whole thing, he suddenly sees this kid has the heart for him to pass down his ability and whatever. I mean, this story probably sounds confusing at this point because I'm trying to sum up a whole show, like some like, I don't know, what is it, like 50 episode thing, 60 episode something. But pretty much it was that the hero, pretty much the idea that was shared in that show was that the hero's body moved before the mind. That there is something in human beings that when it knows, it's authorized its own ability to itself. I feel that there's going to develop in the future a new branch of academia, you can say academic study, where you can say we're actually gonna make the word soul and nature interchangeable. What that means is right now we have people studying the body of man. We have in regards to the brain, we have people like psychologists and philosophers studying the mind. And then we're going to have some people who are going to study background, like just like how there's a background radiation to our cosmos, and that's how we know it was like it cooled down from some sort of Big Bang analysis. That means it was like you can say it was everything was very tiny. And in less than a second, in cosmic inflation, after cosmic inflation, everything poured out. So the mystery of this cosmos is so grand. So imagine like we have background radiation. The Hubble telescope helped us see it. So let's say now we start to think that there is a background radiation to the psyche. Now Carl Jung called it the unconscious, but Carl Jung, he was so ahead of his time, he realized he had to declare and choose a position. That means honestly, I think I haven't really dived in that much into the Carl Jung. I have dived into his work, but not that much to know that if he, before coming up with the term collective unconscious, had different models on reality. Because for me, when I share an idea, I see a couple versions of it, I can share it. And then I choose one in my inner realm. So then I share it with you. It's just like how they compared Kasparov, this Russian chess genius, and he faced this machine called something blue in chess, deep blue. something like that. So he faced a computer in a chess game. The first computer, I think it was designed by someone named MacArthur, Arthur MacArthur. I don't know, something like that. So this gentleman who had designed this computer that could play chess against this chess master, it was a very unique situation where Kasparov, this great chess master, he wins the first round. But then what happens, it comes to the second round. The second round he loses. But the first round, they realize this chess master, every piece he would see, he was thinking three different moves for each piece. That means literally this chess master was looking at each piece and seeing three options, three options, three options, something like that. You know? I mean, you can check Kasparov speaking about it himself, but he was like, it was as if it was like every one, it was as if like Kasparov was seeing three options, the thing was seeing different, but now the machine didn't have insight, didn't have that view to see like if it could make a mistake. So sometimes you could say shortcuts are imaginary leaps. Sometimes if you find an easier way to do something, your brain has been actually, you can say your neurons have been working out. So if we treat novelty as intelligence and we design an educational system of novelty, that would be an educational system where the teacher will not be teaching the students. The teacher will ask every student a question and they have to, as a group, challenge the teacher. That would be a good thing, you know? There was something my father told me, this story of when he was a kid. Like when he was a kid in high school, he attended this high school in Iran known as Alborz, you know? And there was this other school that was, the Alborz was a good school, but the thing, what do you call it? Excuse me. There was another school there, and this school was for all the kids who had failed and were like criminal in all the schools. So it was where all the criminal kids went to school. And so my father was saying this was a story of some event that had happened when he was in Alborz, where for different schools, the rumors were passing around from different schools, not just like all the rumors were in one school. It's like, can you imagine? Can you imagine a classroom of schools, you know? So my father said, he was telling me the story that there was in that school for criminals, when he was in Alborz, they had shared this story, that there was this teacher that all the teachers would quit from that school because the kids would intimidate them, and the kids were literally like, not just like, like trying to be cool or something. They were criminal, the kids. So they had a chaotic dimension open to their eyes, you know. So what happens is the teacher that quit had gone into the classroom, and the moment he had gone in, three and four kids in the classroom had gotten knives and they had just stuck it in their tables. And they were just staring at the teacher like, get out of here, you know? And so this teacher, the previous teacher had quit. Now then they brought another teacher who I think was a military guy, was some person who had some next level, like his eyes were not weak, you know. So what happens is this teacher does something that at the end of the class, all the students are very polite. For the first time, the principal is like, I never thought I'd see the day, you know? And the students are super disciplined and silent, and there's nothing, they're just listening and for the first time taking notes in the class. Now, what do you think this teacher had done? What do you think? How do you think? How do you think? Um, He taught that class. It was a math class, and they were teaching about the. So this is what the teacher does. I'll tell you. The teacher comes into the class. The teacher comes into the class and sees all the kids have put the knives and they're grilling him and they're like, get out of here with the mess, like criminal eyes. This teacher ignores all of it. And back in the day, they had these blackboards that were like hanging from the air, so they had nothing in the back. Do you know what I mean? They had like it was like a blackboard that wasn't connected to the wall. So this is the story. The principal's like, "How do you do it?" The teachers and look at what the teacher does. The teacher goes into the class, sees all these kids trying to act fucked up. You know, the teacher in the class says, "Kids, today," and all the kids have knives and they're acting criminal. And the teacher's like, "Today, we're gonna learn about the circle," and he draws this circle on this blackboard, and he says, "And we're also gonna learn about the center of the circle." The guy punches the blackboard so intensely that it breaks. Like literally, like as if he's a martial artist or something. He punches the blackboard, instantly breaks the whole blackboard. All the kids who had knives on the table instantly take back their knives and they sit quiet. You know what I mean? So that's how you teach some kids. But you got to be a martial artist before you. Can you imagine the guy had done that and the blackboard hadn't broken? But honestly, the story was significant because what it means is sometimes you don't get through to people by not being at their same energetic level. I've noticed this. I noticed this in animal psychology. What do you see? What do you see when one tiger growls? The other tiger growls. Then the other tiger growls louder. Then the other tiger growls louder. So what is the whole point thing? That it's not just a linguistic reality. It's just a tonal expression reality. Do you know? Like I'll tell you, there was an attitude. I personally didn't like it. It wasn't my style, but I could see there were some people that there was like some shisha places I had gone to, and the person in that shisha place in Iran was like sitting in such a way as if he was like literally like, let me tell you, some people, their attitudes are intimidating. It's not even what they do is intimidating. It's just that they're not. Let me tell you what it is. Any person you see on this planet, if they are demonstrating too much power, like let me tell you, the idea of it is that power doesn't need to demonstrate. Do you know? It doesn't need to prove. It doesn't need to show off. So those people who show off, you can instantly know. Honestly, when I went to Iran, a side of my family was literally I had come from the most spiritual. This was 2016 in India. Okay, I was in India, Rishikesh. I was there for 2 months. I'm in the most spiritual phase of my life. Not most spiritual, but like very, very intuitive phase of my life where I was just living in an ashram for 2 months. And so after that, what happened was I had come to Iran because it was close by when I was in India. And so when I went to Iran, some of my cousins who hadn't seen me for years, they came to see me. And the first thing they did, not the first thing, like they acted very kind, very compassionate, very mindful. But then you could totally see it's as if like I can't tell you, it was like, like, anyways, I'm getting carried off, guys. Sorry. Anyway, sometimes we need our imaginations in check by having reality in check. And reality, when we come to check it, it came out of the void. What do we do? What do we do with that? What do we do with emergence of meaning out of nowhere? There's a quote by Rumi, I am reminded. He says, out beyond ideas of right doing and wrong doing, there is a place. I will meet you there. Now, there is a second part, but I'm going to just dive into the first part. He says, out beyond ideas of right doing and wrong doing. That's pretty much our morality. That means beyond what we think is the right thing to do and beyond what we think is the wrong thing to punish. There is a place, as if there is a way your mind can exist in this world where the good and bad are not at war, where there was no good and bad, that the human being could step anew. There is ignorance and there is, you can say, clarity. I would say that would be an evolutionary model before the secular society establishes it. I think eventually secular society will understand that the modern morality has to be efficiency and inefficiency. That's it. And efficiency is being considered from a individual position and from a collective position. So if you so pretty much a human being has these options. Okay, imagine there's a self in a world. Okay, we take that as two categories. We say there can be an efficient self, or let me say it like this: there can some. What do we see? Selves that you can have an inefficient self in an inefficient world. That means you're not living well, and the whole world is not in a well condition. You know. Then let us say we can have an efficient self, we can have an inefficient self in an efficient world. That means your world is actually pretty advanced and high speed, and there's so many better ways you can experience the world, but you are choosing to stay in an inefficient self. Do you see? So first there was the inefficient self, the inefficient world, then we have the inefficient self, then we have the efficient world. Imagine the world is efficient, you don't realize it. That's why the self feels inefficient. Now imagine we have an efficient self and an inefficient world. Imagine right now people were perfect. People were like angels of advancement, do you know? And the world was inefficient and we had to only update it. I honestly think that's kind of like very close to how it looks like now. Now, what would an advanced civilization be? Efficient self, efficient world. That would be the ultimate morality. That means when we come to look at a word, we see it has an alphabet. But when you come to look at an experience, it doesn't have a sort of like, you can say the alphabet of an experience is the dynamism of the image, the attention, some attributeless journeying sight. Sometimes I feel that we shouldn't fear the surveillance metaphor. I honestly feel that our eyes are a window to another dimension. You know, I feel that no person's eyes are just their eyes. Honestly, like in Shintoism, I mean, they took it too far, but but in Shintoism, they saw it in a way where it was like the all matter was a vessel for a highway of souls. Imagine. So that means it's like there's never. Here's the thing. I think what's happening is higher dimensions. I think there is never individualism. I think what's going on is our body is like a world for the cells in our body. And then we can say our mind is a body for a higher dimension. So I feel that really Thanks for the lovely comments, guys. Very means a lot, actually. Beyond inefficiency, beyond clouds of abstraction, after we have checked reality, after we have checked imagination, where will our eyes go? And what if our dimension is a branch? What if the dimensions are not linear? This could be highly possible, highly probable that we think the dimensions are organized like we can linearize them, but they could totally be like random branches of a tree. We can notice the branches, how many branches there are, but we can't notice how they are growing. That means when I look at trees, they're all trees to me, but when I really zoom in, each tree is different. And so when I look at human beings, it's like we're all humans, but when we zoom in, we're each different. So you can say when we zoom in, that's the inner realm. When we zoom out, that's the outer realm. So we have to literally, our eyes, our minds are like cameras, and we just as 8 billion creatures on this earth have to comprehend how to zoom in and out to have a fluidity in communication. Because really, that's the only thing. I have this, I could be alone in this, but I have this view that we have at 30 years before the technological singularity that's predicted by Ray Kurzweil and some other people, that by the year 2045, we're going to have potentially a sort of technological revolution. So before that technological revolution, pretty much the implication of a technological revolution means we would have less time to look at nature and evolve the user of technology, because the technology is going to be so evolved, it's going to occupy the attention of the person. So what I'm saying is we have 30 years to communicate incredibly freely and to trust the inner realms and not to be afraid, because after, it's going to become a different game. Right now, it's as if nature is with us. Do you know? That means I remember one night I sat down, closed my eyes, and I tried to go very far in the, you can say it's as if like my attention, like sometimes I shoot my attention like an arrow. Sometimes I've said it in my other talks. It's like throwing a spear into an unknown sky. Some questions I have, the question sometimes has a depth that makes any sort of answer um, meaningless. That means the more, it's like, think of it this way: everything is there's a concept and there's a context. Now if the context evolves, the concept is not the same concept. If the concept evolves, the context is not the same context. I never said the second part of that Rumi quote. The second part of it was, the first part was, out beyond ideas of right doing and wrong doing, there's a place. I will meet you there. And then Rumi says, when the soul sits on that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Can you imagine a civilization so advanced that we can, for the first time, every 8 billion human beings can relax? Can you imagine? Can you imagine that moment? I mean, of course, it's probably not in our lifetime this is going to happen, but I'm saying, like, I could totally see at some point human beings, upon completing the basics for an advanced civilization, the most foundation, fundamental level of, like, I'm trying to say, like, the at least the minimum requirements of building an advanced civilization. Imagine we build an incredibly self-sustaining advanced civilization, and then we can all relax. That's the feeling, where you do your work, and then, just as the sun, you know leaves, so do you. That's the cool thing about this life. I treat it as a performance, so if at some point in life I feel like it's ending, at least I know that I've performed so far. Do you know? That means I remember, I'll tell you, someone very close to me once told me, I asked that, how do you see the notion of death? And the answer that came was, someone with pretty much, it was a family member. I asked, and the family member said that I just do the best I can. And that answer was so enlightening that really we can't expect too much. We can expect as much as it's sufficient, you know? This is why I'm saying, if we entertain the pilot analogy, then the pilot is ejecting out of the plane of existence. So if you treat your life like an art, like a martial art, or like some craft, I'm telling you, it does wonders for your eyes. I'm just saying that whatever way language has painted meaning, it is still sound in the void, and the void, that is the grand mirror. That means my talks there, I can only talk about what's filled in the void, but really the void is its own teaching. There's some things in life that the world teaches you, not no human can. It's just something where after you go through something, you can say just a phase of life, you suddenly see more. Charles Bukowski, this incredible writer, and you might not believe it, but in 2011, that was a very 2012 was like the worst year of my life. But I mean that's too intense. But I can tell. That means some people, they said the world ends in 2012. For me, yeah, but a different world ended. You know, it was pretty much 2012 was the last year of my own karmic quarantine, and I could tell you it was like it was like a blessing, strangely. That I don't know what it was. It was just like I noticed that when I don't know things, I can know things. But if I hold on to something, then where my attention is on that. That means it's like, if the question is, knowledge is based on what the attention reveals, so just the dynamism of the attention. So technically, it doesn't matter who you are. If you just have endless effort in this life and some sort of level of realism, and of course, don't forget the street smart lightsaber. It's all the dance of eyes through words. It is all atoms trying to be more than they could ever be. It is an activity on a cosmic level. And so, are we just the elements being weird? Are we like is the periodic table is definitely doing something weird, guys, because we created All right, guys. I decided to do something interesting to kind of freshen things up. Um, I'm gonna read for you something from an unpublished book. Some entries. Pretty much, I wrote this book in 2015. It's called The Source of Language. It's not published yet, but it's a series of essays. And for some reason, I felt like reading one of these essays. So let me see. There's a quote. And the cool thing about the book is I've put in. I mean, it's a book where probably I have to give for free. Like literally, it's like copyright free. But the issue is, it's not an issue, but in each part of it, there's 3 quotes. You know what I mean? So each chapter has a quote, 3 quotes in front of it before you turn the page and read the entry. Okay, this chapter is it's really short, but I guess it's yeah. All right, I'll read it. So it's chapter 17. I mean entry 17. They're each the golden drop vision. The golden drop vision. How does fiction work? A golden drop was thrown in the depths of an abstract physical universe. What can be received from the cosmos that we can truly comprehend? The title of this chapter is a personal one for the writer. Through the depth of space, I remember a moment came to me that I was in my greater omniscient form, throwing a golden drop with a message in it into the depths of my own mind, which at the same time was synonymous for me to the depths of the conscious universe. As advanced abstract geometry took the message across, how would the response of transcendence return? Like a message within a bottle, could a golden drop have been thrown to Andromeda? Just to see if the family still remembers. Would a faraway galaxy hear the cries of an abandoned individual conscious entity within the infinite collective unified intelligence of omniscient space? What would companionship mean when there is no separation? When the source of language becomes synonymous with the source of your mind? Mysticism is not just the play of imagination, for all reality is being put forth towards the natural effort of the immediate conscious moment. Is genius hidden in the unhidden? What makes thought marvel at its source beyond time? The Zen master smiles without his lips moving. The vastness of space envelops of a cosmic inner universal message. What could such a message say, and how heavy of importance is a tiny golden drop floating in space? As the might of the 7 universes bow to the honor of their source, such words could be said before they were told. In quotations I've written, we are not lost, but let us be found. This chapter ends, but the vision still stands. That's the end of that chapter. I mean entry. There is one above it. Oh, I forgot to read the 3 quotes, guys. Sorry. So the 3 quotes for the chapter I read were one from Eleanor Roosevelt. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Rabindranath Tagore. Love does not claim possession, but gives freedom. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. The soul that sees beauty may sometimes walk alone. So chapter 16. I don't know why I wrote chapter again. Entries. Entry 16. The pen that opened worlds. The pen that opened worlds. Morihei Shiva. Everyone has a spirit that can be refined. Everyone has a spirit that can be Sorry, everyone has a spirit that can be refined, a body that can be trained in some manner. What is this? I think I messed up the quote. Everyone has a spirit that can be refined. Everyone has probably a mind that can be refined, a body that can be trained in some manner, a suitable path to follow. You're here to realize your inner divinity and manifest your innate enlightenment. The founder of Aikido says that. Victor Hugo. The aim of art is almost divine, to bring to life again if it is writing history, to create if it is writing poetry. To bring to life again if it is writing history, to create if it is writing poetry. George Bernard Shaw. You see things and you say in quotations why, but I dream things that never were and I say why not. Well said. George Bernard Shaw knew what was up. Alright guys, let's read the entry. The pen that opened worlds. Some writers are not artists, but a divine pen moving on its own. What is the greatness of mankind? Have you felt the soul of souls of the whole cosmos that you are being? Let humility be the most sincere guide. Live your life now, there is no other time. When time is not the same in the experience of many people, for example, a big shot CEO and a silent Zen monk, as there are two different moments, we suddenly notice a very unique point. If two people or maybe 8 billion people are having different experiences of time, then how real is time really? And could it be that in our infinite unknown, we all share the same oneness of emptiness, intelligent beyond a conceivable shape? Life is too dynamic to be static. Life is too static to be dynamic. Has the CEO witnessed the selfless beauty of Zen? Even monks should not get attached to emptiness. Just be who you are. What else is life asking? Before we all Satchit Ananda out of here, for the ego never existed when all manifestation moves at once, return to the beauty of the here and now. Where else would everything go if the location was defined relative to everything? Could enlightenment be simpler than we think, in quotations? You are the untouchable bliss of cosmic consciousness. How can life move you without knowing where it is moving you to? Let us not just be experts on nothing, with a capital N, I've written this. Let us not just be experts on nothing, but to be the wisdom of the cosmos is more than a disguised God. excuse me, truth cannot lie. How could you fall if before you were up? What I mean is that in quotations good is based on in quotations bad, and bad is based on in quotations good. A sweet couple dancing on reality's lens. So as up and down are relative, you only need to get redeemed in proportion to the intensity of guilt that you have self-imposed. When we notice the world is real in our eyes, when we notice the world is real in our eyes, there is no outer rebellion, but an internal self-inquiry that reminds clarity what it is. To be Zen and opinionless means to not allow duality to exist for the view that is originating it beyond the duality. Love and compassion are important, but only to the awareness that is the self beyond the idea of the self. Wild wisdom shall find you, once truth has found an honest mirror. Life is communicating with us all the time. Time is a communication of life. What that means is that you're sitting somewhere reading this simultaneously. The planet, the world, the whole cosmos, and the moment is communicating to you as you. The moment is grand. If the planet could speak, what would she say to you? Once one realizes that the nature of all thought is void and colored only by personal view and ethnocentric tendencies, and that the nature of all objective phenomena is empty, and it is only once your eyes are open that you begin painting the empty canvas of the day with your own means. This brings up a very interesting question. If it is only when our eyes open that we see the object and the value, prior to that view there was an awareness of being that was aware that there was no picture yet. So just like a coin, the duality of the veil is also simultaneously being its unity. The alchemy of chaotic order is a suggestion that language is creating most of our lives. But once the tension within the tension is found, the collective realization was never for an individual, but only individual through ignorant, elusive acceptance. When you are within God, that also means God is within you. For when we again wonder about where our sensory perception is being received, it seems the light of sight must enter our eyes. It seems the light of sight must enter our eyes. So is externality only being internally received? Do you ever see anything beyond what light has allowed? Seems like the projector projected on the wall is shaking. Okay. Sorry, guys. Needed a break there. All right. Where was I? I'm reading this entry, guys. So someone just tuning in might have no idea what I'm reading. One self-inquiry. Do you ever see anything? Okay, so I'll read it from here. Do you ever see anything beyond what light has allowed? Seems like the projector projected on the wall is shaking. Once self-inquiry is intently decided upon, you will sincerely detach from time to be administered by the divine supersoul intelligence within all things. Para-Brahman shall be remembered greatly. The mystery of light must be pondered on beyond the walls of science. The formula is an effect of a cause unknown. So if science is acknowledging a cause and effect universe, then it may be noteworthy to first deeply wonder about the depth of cause and effect dynamics and truly study the nature of consciousness. For a writer, there is a world both on paper and off paper. The observance of how existence is existing for you through such sincere self-reflection will move away from the mirror of illusion that was always void. So when you write, either a world is within you or you two are in a greater world beyond your conception. The pilots of consciousness navigate as the whole plane of existence. That means as you are reading these words, consciousness is simultaneously being, empty, full, and beyond. Could transcendence ever be an idea? Life cannot be caged in thought, for the awareness prior and beyond the thought was never caged. As the stream of sincere devotional intelligence is found, let faith carry you towards the one and only true nature of reality, the ocean of consciousness that has embodied spectrums in this world of forms of us. The many shall remember the one shall remember the many. So the attention to the language is beyond the language. Life has not manifested you to be ignored and bored. The greatness of your design must be self-realized through an unchanging moment. Are you afraid of the rope that looks like a snake? That's a question. The greatest service is to attend to our natural state of being, which as intelligent life already knows what to do. Mystical and yogic studies must be advanced more. The new wave of treasure revealers is no longer to search for anything outside, but to realize the treasure within. The dream of life is beautiful, but the awakening has beauty too. Awakening to what? To a moment beyond the experience of language of ideas. When God's mind becomes a source beyond all the language that defines it, silence is too a divine gift. Wisdom is now. Your consciousness has always blissfully been breathing it. In the love of all that is, in the gratefulness to know thyself, the world and you are the same moment. The world and you are the same moment. Can you imagine that? Like in breaking news, like on the TV, like in mystical breaking news. Yourself and your world are the same moment, people of humanity. Technically, me reading something I wrote from 2015 is me checking my imagination. We can say this is a type of imagination check, guys. It fits into the to the talk. I will read this small other one more chapter and then I'll end off, guys. It's called Riding with the Wind. And you don't know, like writing for me is divine. For me, it's like there's a kind of writing that the person doesn't is waiting, and then there's a type of writing that's just waiting to find the pen, can't wait to write it. Riding with the Wind, chapter entry 14. The wisdom of death could perhaps be eternal life, but without the in tune with the cosmos self-reflection. Who is it that truly wants to know? Who is the witness of individual expression throughout the day and into the abyss of night? Who can write on rainy days without a roof? Beyond the thought that creates the God, in quotations, of the universe, there is no, in quotations, you. For it is all one moment beyond counting. Return back to the silence that you are. Beyond elementary forces, you are a witness beyond spoken thought. The unknown is within the known, and the known is within the unknown. Language is a biased game for the mystic that has opened the door made of bliss from a cosmic silence. Once you micro-focus into the nature of your experience, the experiencer cannot speak, for when the view would shift in design, for then the view would shift in design once a new sound has been evoked. He who understands the nature of existential silence will become a friend to the renunciate of all thoughts. Did you know direct experience has nowhere to go? Begin at the top if you want to climb any mountain. Don't take life so seriously, simply observe beyond bodies. Speech communicates location. Life is a dynamic experience that must be sincerely lived. You are already an enlightened state of being. What is language in your experience of all that is? What is the design of God's mind beyond stories of the pen's command? When desires are gone, life already knows how to be itself. The winds of change will show us. A person never held a pen. Consciousness held the world. Are you a moment unborn? Smile as ultimate joy. If our civilization right now is trying to get to joy, an advanced civilization would be at the ultimate of joy. We would be intelligent. Like right now, our intelligence is not surpassing the challenges of the planet. But there will come a point where there will be a species that we will surpass this. We will become more intelligent than our world. You know? Not just as we are now. Right now, I see in my inner realms huge shifts in technological. Like I've somehow, strangely, in my inner realms, I feel I've seen the fast forward potential, a probabilistic potential of like a fast forwarded version of what's going to happen to technology here. And all I can say is, you are now nature. Cherish it. And I will tell you, karmic turbulence tends to go away if you accept the simpler you. Then you don't need to, then it's not that you change. And when I say accept the simpler you, I'm not saying like just be simple-minded. I mean, when you realize it's okay for you to simply exist, and it's okay for you to, in a complex way, experience, then that is completion. That's literally the wings of the mind have been activated. You've witnessed chaos and order. Anytime you witness the chaos and order of any system, you will find a strange control as if you're hovering it from beyond it. So I would say the scholarly passion is the witnessing. So Excalibur, let's call this the Excalibur of the scholarly passions, where the witnessing of chaos and order is the flight of attention beyond even fields of mind, because body is like object based. So an object, like right now when I think about my outer realms, I'm like, all right, so it's understandable. This life, of course, is a blessing, is an opportunity. The breath is in our lungs now and we shouldn't waste it, you know? But at the same time, I know that it's like it really makes sense as an ultimate strategy to love what you do. Because sometimes what you do, I mean, when you think about life, there is a sort of dispatch at the end. But hopefully the great work leads to such an advanced civilization. In one of my science fictions, I created this concept. I called it immortal juice. Literally, a company comes in the future, way in the future, and it's like, immortal juice, guys, just drink this juice a couple times a day and you'll literally be as energized as if you had like 3 giant meals. Or like literally you drink this juice, it makes your body's potential just maximized, like pretty much a sensu being made into like a juice, branded immortal juice, probably with sensu bean percentage in it. And it was a sort of reality where we've transcended the limits of the body. Because I mean, like, think as if we were so technologically advanced right now, we weren't worried about pain. We weren't worried about suffering. I mean, honestly, imagine a civilization that developed a respawn machine. where nobody could die, they would endlessly respawn. Like, how ridiculous would that be? I probably should add a dimension of that to my science fiction. I'll call it the respawn machine. That we can call it the immortal respawn machine. The respawn machine of immortality. You see, guys, here's the thing. Think of history as a book where we have gone to the middle of it. Okay, now imagine some people come and they notice the moment, the chapter they are on history, the chapter they're written in the history book, and then they flip a few pages and they suddenly notice, wait a minute, you can speed up. I'm telling you, sometimes you in life there's nothing to wait for, it's just speed. I mean, you either move towards something or something moves towards you, you know? And usually, if a person has a dream and a vision, you got to move. That's why I'm saying, if like be so busy that not busy. I mean, that's the wrong word. I should say. I would say. I mean, that directs the attention in the wrong place. I'd say, don't fear work. It is what makes everything work. It's like literally we're just, what are we like? Energetic batteries that just we express. That's living. You got to move around in the day. Somebody said, like Rumi, he said that if you keep your hand into a fist and you just keep it there, like your hand gets paralyzed. But if you stretch out your hand, and not but and also if you stretch out your hand completely and keep it there, your hand gets, the muscles get fatigued. You know. So what happens is that the body has to be between a balance of intensity and gentleness. And if we can create a civilization where a human being wakes up and does the intense work, they have a choice. They can do. Imagine it was as if we created a civilization where half the day it was illegal to work. Can you imagine? Imagine we were the opposite situation where we were working so much as a civilization. The government's like, holy shit, like people are working so much they're dying. We got to make it illegal for them to work so they take vacations. Yeah. Can you imagine a civilization that work was like play? Was like, imagine like a lot of people think of as if work and pleasure were changed, were it like it was the other way. Do you know? Where anytime we went saw something pleasurable, we're like, okay, let's build something. And meanwhile, while we're here, you know. Oh yeah, there were quotes here. Let me read the three quotes and I'll end off the talk, guys. Khalil Gibran says, "Forget not that the earth delights to feel your bare feet, and the winds long to play with your hair." Oliver Wendell Holmes Sr. I find the great thing in this world is not so much where we stand as in what direction we are moving. To reach the port of heaven, we must sail sometimes with the wind and sometimes against it, but we must sail and not drift nor lie at anchor. Augustus Hare. Thought is the wind, knowledge the sail, and mankind the vessel. Bravo. This man probably is like, it's thousands of years he's probably passed away, but like the quote was epic. Thought is the wind, knowledge is the sail, and mankind the vessel. That means you are going towards thought. Thoughts are motivating you towards knowledge, and knowledge is the sail of mankind's overall direction. That means you as a human being, if you really went based on outer realm purpose, I mean, pretty much you got to help your species out, you know. That means if that means anybody who doesn't want to build an advanced civilization, what's wrong with you? But honestly, it's like, what is this? We're like pretty much survivor mode. Yeah, like we're all on a cosmic island, on a, excuse me, a planetary island. Our planet is literally like an island where we sparked our own fire and we sparked our own languages and our own interpretations, and we think everything has to fit our knowledge, and we're so arrogant to think that we figured it out. We can't figure this out even if we had endless AI systems just trying to solve our problems. Like literally, it's too big. That's the issue. That means you can't, like, how much are you going to measure? You can measure some things, but after some point, you're going to be like, holy shit, like like a ruler that big doesn't exist, you know? What I'm being playful here is that we it's not that see, everything has a shadow and has a bright side. Okay, it has where the light's pointing. So I think anything can be looked down upon and looked up to, you know? And society needs events. That's the biggest thing society needs. Efficient, collectively intelligent events. That means we should just constantly create events where people get to. I mean, here's the thing, there is knowledge that you can kind of like try to have the inventor's attitude where you just solo it out. And then there's a type of knowledge where instead of soloing it out, you just add more random variables. So imagine, like it's like this. Imagine like there was it's like speaking to a room, speaking with 10 people compared to like one person just from one worldview trying to attain something. I'm just saying, like sometimes, like an event. I mean, what is the purpose of being human? I mean, if before we built civilization, our purpose was like jumping from tree to tree or something. Yeah. But right now we've built this civilization, we want to jump from branch of knowledge to branch of knowledge. So if we take the intensity of language worship out of the picture, everybody's going to be chill. That means when somebody says, I believe this, we'll be like, good for you, thank you. It's like, it's fine. Because whatever people believe, reality is reality. The truth of the matter means that something is, and then there's something being imposed that is deviating from what that is, that could be elusive. Do you know? We can even say the idea of all those people saying they're in a simulation, it's literally like just simulation theory, pretty much. Mystics had it, modern people have it. Mystics called it a dream. Now we call it a simulation. The world's a simulation. Back in the day, life of the world was a dream. But so the simulation can be said to become an emotion. I honestly think the concept of simulation, it's not, life is not a simulation, but it's a feeling. And that feeling means there is probably like 34% unknownness in the moment. Imagine someone changes their name, their first name and last name, to the word great, and their last name Ness. Or imagine your last name is Ness and you name your child Great. And and every time your child's called, it's greatness. Sorry guys, that was just a once in a lifetime attempt at that joke. The thoughts that was here now. But what I'm trying to say is that I mean, everything's like a classification. Pretty much every person whatever concept they comprehend, they're fitting it in their worldview ultimately. So what that means, and if the worldview is emotionally can change, that means you could be someone who thinks you know everything, but suddenly you just feel something. You know, your emotions are things that, I don't know, it's like you can't study them. You can just observe them as they pass through, like storms or winds or something. This is what I'm saying. If there's any, this is the solution to all domestic violence, you know? All sorts of arguments and fights between couples all around the planet. The solution of it is they just have to lie down on their back and look at the ceiling and finish the conversation that way. When someone's on the ground lying down, the energy doesn't, like gravity doesn't make you, it's not easy to get angry when you're lying down on the ground. Yeah. The poet Rumi has this quote. He says there's 10,000 ways to kneel down and kiss the earth. That means there's 10,000 ways. Pretty much he's saying there's many ways. Okay, guys, the sounds okay now. Honestly, when it comes to all of this that I'm saying, I'm just saying we've been treating ourselves as objects, and we've been ignoring the imagination, not realizing that the self is imagined into being. So if we can develop a civilization where instead of having reality and imagination, we have reality one, we have imagination one, then we have reality two being the witness of reality one plus imagination. That means the greater reality is not a reality where you're checking to see what reality is or what imagination is. Reality two is the simultaneous inseparable, noticing the inseparability of reality and imagination, of mind and matter. Because every person right now in front of your eyes, I say that's your outer realms, behind your eyes, your inner realms. And if you were to close your eyes long enough, you'll notice that your eyes are moving in accordance to the vision you have. So that means I've closed my eyes and I've envisioned like a film in my inner realms. I've perceived, witnessed a film in my inner realms. I've also noticed every image that came through that film in my psyche, I was witnessing the content of my psyche. It made my eyes move. So when you think really fast, it's like you're scrolling through different memories. Each memory, your eyes were in a different way. So each of your eyes, based on a thought, moves to a certain way, certain level. That means it's image based. That means honestly, behind our eyes, there's an internal cinematic language. That this internal cinematic language is like memory, but there's also memory with a flexibility of its own parallels. So when you become conscious of your inner realms, suddenly you notice for the first time that an object named another object as a subject and named itself as a subject, and what mysterious um, force is doing this. We need Yoda to answer these questions. Like, somebody please find a Jedi. And beyond abstraction, really, it's your own exploration. The only way you can learn that which cannot be taught is by not being the same student, by not being language's movement prior to where language is moving. Because, like, I don't know how to say this, but we are on a stage to ourselves. Like, our minds are like a spotlight. Imagine like you're an actor on stage and there's a spotlight on you. So your own mind is a spotlight, but instead of light, it's attention, it's awareness. And this awareness, the texture of it, the mystery of it was so fascinating that I'll tell you an experience for when I was in India. I would do this thing where they had dinner at this vegetable, not vegetable, what am I saying? Like in the lunch area, and the lunch area of the place had this cage around it because monkeys in the middle of the day would come and attack the food of the ashram. Like wild monkeys were there in the ashram. Okay. And the chefs were like fighting the monkeys by throwing stones at them and using like shouting at them, like Skyrim. And anyways, I would remember when I was there, I was in a very kind of strangely inner journey vibe. Like I was there kind of in my own zone, I can say. It wasn't per se too much of a social trip, you know. But what happened was at the end of the night, I would feel this sudden like, holy shit, I'm in a country I have no idea. Like, where am I? Like not no idea where, but it was like suddenly I noticed I am. It's like I have journeyed somewhere. It felt like I was in the middle of a journey. You know. And at night they had this temple, and nobody would go in this. They had this meditation hall where they had this sort of like shrine like figure, like some liberated figure who had helped the ashram or whatever. There was some sort of meditation hall there. And I remember after dinner, I would go there, sit there, and just start saying these, like this Om mantra, but I would say Om to a point where it wouldn't be the sound or the way you said it any more important. It's like if you say Om properly, it's literally like an antenna. You go into the right antenna, and once you're there, once you have the signal, you can't lose it. I don't know how to say it, but it's like everything. It's just like how a person, once they know how to do something, they can do it. It's like that. I would just, I don't know. I would sit there and say, "Oh," and I would keep a shoe between the door because I always feared, like, what if somebody comes and locks me? You could lock the door from the outside. I was like, what if somebody comes and locks me? You know, so I would keep a shoe between. My shoe was between the door and the thing, so I could immediately run if somebody was like came to close it or something, or they saw the shoe and they'd be like, somebody's in here, you know. But when I was there was a silence of the self. And I feel the younger you are, you become comfortable with this silence, the more you actually notice things going on in life. This is why I'm saying, for example, the middle child in families, the middle child who is technically like, the format is like the child gets ignored, the middle child. Now, the middle child that gets ignored actually notices the value of silence first, you can say. Anybody who's been quiet in their life, you have been practicing silence. Anybody who's been shy, you are a master of, like, you're not shy being silent. You're not shy being lonely, but you're shy being around others, for example. You're suddenly, like, I'm telling you, when you realize we are not here to just each have unique value. It's like an event. We're all actors, part of the meaning of the moment if we live our lives properly. And where are we left beyond abstraction? What findings can Mr. Within report to the advanced civilization? Civilization 2.0. After the unknown, you see the nature of the unknown is unknown, and you realize the unknown is like a color. Like, it doesn't have necessarily a meaning or something implication or a story behind it or a face behind it or something. Like, the unknown just is unknown, you know. And that unknownness, once you kind of get comfortable with it, and you actually, what happens is the moment you experience something that, it's like there's this something about the psychology of the human being that it doesn't matter how much of it is an inner realm experience or an outer realm experience, but it's like, if there is some intense thing that shifts the person's experience, like, sometimes I think about it, like, it could when somebody gets pushed, it could that be a transcendental moment? Or when somebody gets pulled, or somebody gets astonished, or somebody gets shocked, could all those be transcendental moments? You know, moments where the person is not the same again. Every pilot, every every pilot of attention, pilot of consciousness, every evolutionary creature has potential. Potential requires to be activated. If the activation is dependent on something outside of the person may live a whole life never activating who they could be. To have that sort of activation, it's like, think of it this way: there's nothing to believe, you just have to get acquainted with how your attention is being alive to itself experientially. And once you become content with that, then you can play around with ideology, and life moves to a game where it's no longer about synchronicity, meaning, or thing. It becomes about event based, like an antenna receiving a signal service kind of thing. Whereas Rabindranath Tagore says, I slept and dreamt that life was joy, I awoke and saw that life was service, I acted and behold, service was joy. Service was joy. That means the greater joys are service based, but they're not service to an idea, to some story. It means you're a natural being. Serve your species like how the plant kingdom is serving civilization. How the animal kingdoms, they're just being naturally who they are, and that's the thing. It's like sometimes the less you do, the more you are. It's strange. But sometimes the more you do, the less you are, because the more fragmented your attention has been. Like, as if in one way, the person who's really busy, their attention is like going through a hall of mirrors, like, you know what I mean? Like, ching, 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 ching. I don't know what sound to give it, but like, like imagine the light hitting endless mirrors reflecting off. Right now, imagine somebody who their light like is straight, like a beam, just is going forward. In learning Wing Chun, there was a instructor, martial art instructor. This was when I was really young, like maybe 15 or something. And this person shared the story, and he said there's a spider. I mean, of course, it had a martial art metaphor, but I'm going to focus on a different angle of it. There was a spider that it would move in a zigzag pattern. It would throughout the day move in a zigzag pattern, but at night go a straight line. And this instructor, martial art instructor, it was me, my brother, and some other people. It was in Iran, this guy was saying this in Iran. And he pretty much posed it as a question. Different people tried to answer. Some people said, I don't know, something. And he eventually told us the answer. He says the spider in the day does zigzag patterns, but at night, because there's more danger, the person goes straight. Do you know? The spider goes straight to its place. So that's the thing, that sometimes in life, when there's the luxury, you can go very zigzag, but like, here's the thing, it's like live a serious life. And when I say serious, not in attitude and psychology, it can be incredibly playful, but live towards a serious aim. Make it a collective aim, and you'll be surprised what rewards the collective. It's literally like the advanced civilization will honor those who serve it. I'm not joking. Like, if you do something new on this planet, some new stuff happens. New karma. It's like an Xbox achievement unlocked for the mystic in the inner realms. New karma unlocked. For the Buddha, it was like, suddenly, like, the whole system was like, it's like ultimate achievement. No more karma. You can't play the game anymore. Literally, you've reached the end of the game. The Buddha and all the mystical teachers and all those people who somehow were trying to keep the beacon of divinity alive, the idea of it alive here, It's a dance, this world. It's a dance between selves and what the selves could be if they engage the world properly. Because I'm telling you, it's like, think of it this way. When you look at Tai Chi, Qigong, there's this notion that there's hidden reserves of energy that you can suddenly bring from the body. That you can burst from the body. It's a control of energy that's if there's dormant energy. Now imagine every person's brain from the beginning of the life, like a recording camera, has been recording everything, you know? And it hasn't processed it, right? So that means your brain, subconsciously, you don't know how many parallel realities you have seen to things, but consciously you're just functioning in one reality, of course, an outer realm, a physical outer realm, and our inner realms, of course, are multidimensional, and that's where theoretical physics, where the theories come from. The honor of keeping divinity alive has meant to keep the unknown potential for the new alive. That means if we knew anything, what motivation would there be? Without the unknown, there is no meaning. But because the unknown is here, there can be endless meaning. There can be endless explorations for even meaning. As Commander Erevin from Shingeki no Kyojin says, we find meaning in our lives. Why? Our lives have meaning because we live for those who will find the meaning one day, find the truth one day. That means it's like just because something is meaningless now doesn't mean that the person has to stand idle. That means it's like right now, it's every human being who's alive, like you can totally see future generations being born after. So what that means is now is the time to build, design. I'm telling you, for the first time, we're moving to a designer's era. I think in the next 200 years, there every like young children are going to be next level designers. You know, the world just evolves to what it moves towards. That means where you move towards, it's like the genetical pattern. It's like how the genetical pattern gets sculpted. You're sculpting your grandchildren's urges right now. Genetically. A part of their urges, let's say. But anyways, guys, it's close to 6 a.m. here. Thanks for listening. But I will be in the Discord section for 15 minutes if anybody has a quick question and they need a quick answer. Thanks for listening. Blessings. And you know how they say before you check yourself before you wreck yourself. Yeah. Sometimes you gotta check yourself before you enlighten yourself. you know. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening.